Greetings viewers, Russell Dolak here once again with the fourth branch, bringing to you another interview with someone that you want to know. Asking questions relevant to our islands and of course, questions asked by you the viewers. I'm here tonight with Keitani Graham of Chuk. Once again, thank you for coming and agreeing to this interview. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little introduction.
Well, like you said, my name is Keitani Graham. I'm from the island of Chuk, the States of Micronesia. I, was pretty much born and raised back there. Went to Xavier, like a few other people here that I know. And actually, I went to high school here in Hawaii a couple years too after Xavier in Punahou. And then I went to a Jesuit college up on the East Coast in Massachusetts called Holy Cross. And after I graduated, I went back home and pretty much just been living and working back home.
All right, very nice, thank you. Right, so let's get the number one most important question out of the way.
Okay.
What are your personal athletic achievements?
One of my personal athletic achievements. Well, I've always loved sports. I started out when I was very young. Actually, at Xavier, I started doing track. I did a lot of running, and I played basketball. So those were like my two main sports. And I represented Chuk and FSM at regional tournaments like Micro Games, FSM Games, South Pacific Games. And then I continued that on to college. I played a little bit of basketball in college, but mostly I did track, the decathlon. And then after college, I injured my hamstring, but I still wanted to compete, but I couldn't really run anymore. So I decided to take up a different sport, and I tried wrestling, which is by far the toughest of any of the sports I've done. But it's something that I enjoy a lot, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now.
So currently you're just doing wrestling?
Currently I'm just doing wrestling, focusing on wrestling, trying to get to the London Games in 2012.
All right, so let's talk about FSM wrestling. Who's on the FSM wrestling team?
Well, there isn't really an FSM team per se. Pretty much if there's like a regional competition that the FSM participates in as a nation, then they'll pick different athletes, different wrestlers from each state to go compete at. For example, we have one coming up at the end of February. It's called the Oceania Championships, which includes pretty much all the Pacific, Australia, New Zealand. And there'll be myself, another girl from Chuk, a couple wrestlers from Yap, and I think that's it for this team. But it changes pretty much every year depending on who's training and who's doing well.
How much funding do athletic programs receive yearly, like your wrestling program, from national, state, and local agencies?
Well, let's see. We'll start with Chuk. Back home, there isn't any funding directly earmarked for sports that I know of. Pretty much, it's what you do is you submit budgets to the legislature and stuff, and they can either accept it or deny it. But what they do is if there's Micronesian Games or FSM Games, they usually put forth some funding to send athletes to that. But in terms of actual money for sports programs, right now in Chuk there is none. I know the FSM does have some because they get, I believe it's Congress gives some to the FSM National Olympic Committee, FSM NOC. So on the national level there is some.
Thank you for that. How difficult is it to train back home without the proper facilities that our state so lack?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's why I'm here in Hawaii, because like you said, we lack proper facilities, we lack training partners, we lack coaches. So it's hard to get good competition, good training in at home. I mean, you can do some certain things, just make do with what we have, but it's very, very difficult. Yeah.
You have to come up with some different kind of solutions for what you're lacking, or?
Yeah, we'll just go do our own workouts. Our field is basically our softball field in Chuk, Anderson Field. That's where we do a lot of our workouts, and sometimes we'll get we'll have wrestling practice just there on the grass and stuff. But you just mix and match things and try and make do.
On that track, how hard is it to keep a proper diet, considering all these unhealthy foods that are being imported into?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, it's very hard because it's easier to go home and just open a can of tuna or corned beef or spam. It's easier to do that than go catch a fish, or go to the market. Sometimes fish is more expensive now even than those things. So it's difficult just because it's so easy to go to the store and just get a can of tuna and throw it on some rice. But if you can eat we do have a lot of good foods, like a lot of local foods. Like when I'm in training, I'm trying to cut weight, I usually just try and eat local foods, a lot of fish, a lot of our natural vegetables, breadfruit, cereal, that kind of thing. So you can do it, but it's more of a chore. It's more of a task to try and do.
So is that like your typical diet for when you're in training?
Yeah, in training, like for wrestling, you have to cut like anywhere. Sometimes it's usually like 20, 25 pounds. So you have to really watch what you eat. Like I said, I eat a lot of fish and stuff. Cut the carbs, not so much greasy foods or fat. So it's tough to do at home. But
any recommendations for those athletes back home?
Yeah, eat local foods. You might be talking about food or just
food, diet.
Yeah, definitely. Local foods are probably the best for athletes at home, for sure.
Where do you think athletics stands as a priority in CHOOP and in the FSM?
Well, I think it's very popular. Sports are very popular back home, but in terms of like as a priority for the government or citizens, it's important. But I think there's other things that are more important, like education, healthcare system, things like that. But it's personally, I love sports and playing sports and doing all that because I think you learn a lot from it. So I think it should be a little bit higher priority. But we do have other things that we need to take care of first.
So there's just some other issues that are more pressing at this time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right now, you mentioned that the FSM gives out money to the FSM and OC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe.
Who else sponsors the teams? The CHOOP team?
CHOOP team, we basically it's just mostly fundraising.
Yeah.
Like we have individuals that help us out actually even from the States, like Asiret, she was helping us, sell t-shirts, and we got donations from like people all around the US, a lot of Chuukese that are sending money or bought t-shirts. We also got, did get some money from like businesses and stuff back home, a few dollars from businesses and stuff that help us out. So there's always individuals.
There are some private sponsors.
Yeah, there are some few private sponsors, nothing big, but whatever they can give. So
like
that always helps.
Small businesses.
Yeah, small businesses sometimes will help us out. Yeah.
Right, the next few questions we're going to go through are just some opinion questions, and a lot of them are brought from our viewers and people asking online. One person asked, what is the driving force to your continued commitment to athletics?
Okay, continue commitment to athletics.
Yeah.
Well, personally,
Personally.
every athlete, that goes into sports seriously wants to try and get to, like the top, like the Olympics or whatever. So I've been to like all the regional competitions, South Pacific and, all that. But my real goal is to try and get to the Olympic Games, the biggest stage there is. I've competed at World Championships in wrestling, but the Olympics is, it comes along once every 4 years. It's what every athlete dreams about. So that's what drives me personally to try and get, to that point. If I can get there, I can retire happily.
Get there. How successful do you think a private gym would be in the FSM?
You mean like a gym where you pay money to go and attend?
Fitness club?
I think it could work at some place like Pohnpei or something where there's a bit more money, Like in CHOOP, I don't think it would be as successful because I don't see people paying to go work out, You know what I mean? You could get a few individuals to do it, but...
I think there are a few, like there is one in Pohnpei.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, like the other states, you think?
Yeah, I don't know about Yap and Bushrai, but I definitely CHOOP. I think it would be difficult to get a private gym going.
Do you think if there was like a public sports complex that had the proper gym facilities, it would succeed?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, if there was a proper complex that had all the facility, the equipment and stuff, and it was run by the right people, I think it could definitely people would use it for sure.
Kind of leading to the next question. How do you think these upkeeps of our current facilities are?
Not very good. I mean, there's examples in each state that you go and look at where you see facilities that were nice when they were first built and now they're a little bit run down, and for whatever reason, some there's maybe some good excuses, maybe not so good excuses in some cases, but they're definitely not as well maintained as they could be.
Could use some improvement.
Yes, for sure.
All right, what are your opinions of the Department of Education's efforts on trying to educate youth about fitness and wellness?
Okay. I can only speak for CHOOP because I have some experience with that. I know Pohnpei, I've visited Pohnpei and I've seen some of their programs, and I believe they have a pretty decent PE program. But in Chuk, they're supposed to be PE and like health in their curriculums, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it at elementary schools. And when I was teaching at Chuk High for a while, before I got in there, they said they had PE, but the students told me that they never really did. So when we initiated and started doing that, it was really a positive thing for the students. They got a lot out of it.
So there's room for it. Just need the right people.
It's priorities. It's not something that's a big priority right now, and they might change it. I hope they do, but it's something that they can definitely improve on.
Right, so this is kind of touching upon that note. What do you think are some of the major impediments that are in Chuk and the FSM that really interrupt children from succeeding in athletics?
Well, like we kind of touched upon earlier, facilities, coaching, competitions. It's very difficult for kids to improve if they're not coached by good role models, good coaches, if they don't have peers that push them, and if there's no ongoing program, there's no structure. That's one of the biggest problems back home, is that things will go on for a little bit, then they'll fall apart, and they'll start up again, and they'll fall apart. So very unstructured.
Is the issue that there's just no funding for it, or there's just no people for it?
It's a combination of both. Obviously everything starts with funding, but you can still do some things without funding though, and that takes people. So the combination of both, I would say.
Do you feel that our culture plays a role, like a positive role or a negative role on children trying to really achieve more in athletics?
I would say it varies from family to family. Before it wasn't really like culture was like, why are you doing sports? You're wasting your time. But even since I've grown up until now, I've noticed that a lot more parents are letting their kids do sports. They're seeing the benefits of it. So culture changes. It shifts and it changes. So the culture now, I think, is a bit more receptive to sports, which is a good thing, I believe, especially since, back in the day, kids wouldn't really play sports because they'd work and stuff. But now, kids aren't really working in the fields or going fishing anymore. So sports is something that can fill that, all that time that they have.
Do you think it's a little more difficult for women back home to be successful athletes? And do you think culture plays a role in that?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely think it's a bit more difficult for women back home to be successful athletes because, like you said, the culture. But I also think it's starting to shift and change. Back when I was going through high school and stuff, women's sports wasn't really big. We had a tough time trying to start, like, for example, women's basketball. But now you see, like, most of the high schools have girls' basketball teams. It's a bit more acceptable for girls to go and play. Or a village, like parents will now let their young girls come out and attend clinics with us. Wrestling, basketball, just playing with the boys. So I see a shift.
So the glass ceiling will start to shatter.
Slowly. I would say shattered. Maybe small cracks.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, earlier you mentioned you went to Xavier, and then you went to Punahou.
Yeah.
You mind comparing your PE
programs with you too?
Yeah.
Well, I gotta be honest and say that Punahou's PE program was by far way better than Xavier. But, I give Xavier credit. They did have like PE programs there. They encourage people to do sports. But, Punahou has such a long history of, being a great school, and their PE program is just one of their, another one of their solid things that they do. So it was not really much of a comparison, but
maybe one day.
Someday, yes.
All right, this is our last question for the night. Do you have any advice you'd like to give to the youth?
Like
aspiring athletes, anything, tips, advice?
Well, when you're young, I guess when you're first starting out, the best thing I can say is just enjoy it. Just go out and enjoy it. Most of the sports are just games. You play with your friends and stuff. And then when you get to a certain point when you think you really enjoy something where you want to take it to the next level, then you gotta focus, work hard, make sure you get proper coaching, all that stuff. But when you first start out, just enjoy it.
All right. Maybe I should go enjoy some sports. Well, thank you very much for the interview.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, Russell Delag once again with the 4th branch. Please stay tuned for the next interview. Good night.